An elderly man in Phoenix called his son in New York and said, "I hate to ruin your day, but I have to tell you that your mother and I are divorcing. After 45 years, misery has been enough." "But Pop, what are you talking about?" the son screamed over the telephone. "We can't stand the sight of each other anymore. And we're just filled with disgust for it. We're sick of each other. And I'm sick about talking this. You call your sister and let her know we're done." And he hung up the line. Frantic, the son called his sister in Chicago. And he said, "You're not going to believe what Dad just called and told me. He said they're getting a divorce after 45 years. And the sister said, "I'll take care of this, don't worry." And she slammed the phone down. She called Phoenix immediately and started screaming at her dad. "You are not getting a divorce! Don't do a single thing until I get there. I'm calling my brother back. We're flying in tomorrow. Do you hear me? Do you understand what I'm saying?" And she hangs up. And the old man put the phone down. He looked over at his wife. He says, "Well, we got Thanksgiving taken care of. They're coming. Now all we have to do is worry about Christmas. And they're paying for it themselves." It's that time of year. Thanksgiving will soon be upon us. My guess is that there are people here today that are descendants of the Mayflower Pilgrims. Anybody know who they are? Yeah, there's a few of us here. There were exactly 102 pilgrims and a crew of 30 on the Mayflower that landed November 21st, 1620, on the tip of Cape Cod in Massachusetts after a 10-week challenging journey across the sea. There were 74 male pilgrims and 28 females. 34 of those males were boys, 10 of them were girls, as young as 3 years of age. After the first winter, only 53 of the 104 survived. 5 were women and 48 were men. Today, it is estimated that there are over 30 million direct descendants of those 53 people who lived through that first winter. Life was difficult that first year because they arrived too late, and it was not possible to plant crops or build homes in order to survive. It was the Native Americans that made it possible for the Pilgrims to make it through that first winter because they taught them how to create native crops and then to prepare them. One of those is corn, for example. In a simple gathering in the fall of 1621, Native Americans shared a meal with undocumented immigrants that never left their land. And so the custom of giving thanks and expressing gratitude in the month of November began. So just what does this thing, gratitude, mean? Webster's dictionary says it's a state of gratitude is thankfulness. Ernest Holmes tells us gratitude is not only a virtue, but it also is part of a practical philosophy of daily life. There is no wiser way of living than to remember every morning what life has given us and to lift up our thoughts in thankfulness for every bounty we possess. Dr. Holmes believed that gratitude and thankfulness were so important that he made it part of his treatment process. Master Eckhart in the 1200s wrote, "If the only prayer you ever say for your entire life is thank you, it will be enough." What I have come to realize is that gratitude can only be experienced in the moments that we open our hearts to both giving and receiving. Giving and receiving doesn't have to be a lavish gift. It can be the simplicity of picking up something that a stranger has dropped, or someone motioning you out of the parking lot onto the road and letting you drive in front of them. It's being in the moment and staying present, After being gone for a week, yesterday I walked among my roses. Now that winter is finally almost upon it, my roses are finally blooming. The summer heat and the lack of water almost destroyed my rose garden. The fragrance was full. The colors were vibrant and the roses were opening. As I cut a few for a desk bouquet, I just kept saying, "Today, God, I'm grateful for my roses." It's appreciating the little things that others do for us, like holding a door open or someone letting you go first in the grocery line because you only have a bottle of milk and a beer. I know. Um, in those moments of kindness, you experience a connection with another and realize your divine oneness. M.J. Ryan and the Attitudes of Gratitude explains that people are afraid to feel thankful because they're fearful being out of control experience that occurs when we acknowledge the bond of the giver and the receiver. We're afraid to feel the love that gets created anytime we express true gratitude. It's a pretty sad predicament when we're afraid of being hurt, so we close our hearts and do not express gratitude. Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, the invariable mark of wisdom is to see the miraculous in the common. It is in those simplistic moments that we return to joy and open our hearts to the miraculous. In Simple Pleasures of the Garden, author Dawn Markovich tells of an experience she had while walking along a gravel road down towards the ocean in Rhode Island. And a very thin elderly lady came hobbling down her driveway towards her, and Dawn waved at her and acknowledged her and said hi and continued to walk. And as she passed by, the woman kept hobbling down the driveway and finally got to Dawn, grabbed her arm, and started to pull her towards the driveway in the opposite direction. Instantly, Dawn thought of Hansel and Gretel and tried to pull away. Her efforts to get away only strengthened the woman's resolve, and she pulled and clung even harder. The elder woman didn't crackle, or cackle as Dawn put it, like the wicked witch in Hansel and Gretel. So she relented and let the woman have her way and pull her up the driveway. The woman didn't say a word. And when they finally got close to the shingled cabin or house with the green shutters, the woman let go. And she threw her arms up and said, "Look at the splendor. It's a miracle." And there was a lawn with a magnificent purple crocus growing everywhere. This elderly woman was open to the beauty and the magic of life and the moment. Her energy to share made everything around her more vibrant and more alive. So just why is gratitude or thankfulness so important in our life? 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 4 states, "For all things created by God are good. Nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving." Think back to the song we heard this morning. Note it states all things created by God are good. Even those things we are afraid of or that may be painful or that are challenging in our life. All of those are opportunities for each of us to grow and to strengthen our spirituality. It's an opportunity to deepen our oneness with God. That growth and those challenges give us an opportunity to express deep gratitude that Timothy is talking about in his writing. It also gives us the opportunity to first see the good in any situation rather than immediately always going to what's bad or what's wrong. When we express gratitude, we are inviting God into our relationship or all relationships. And those relationships are then connected by divine love. Gratitude makes us feel better and more open. I love Karen Drucker's song, I Am So Blessed. It reminds us of just how much we have to be grateful for, and how can we not feel younger when we realize all of our blessings in life. Thanksgiving is a time of harvest, of celebration, of appreciation. What have been the fruits of your labor this last year? Mother Teresa was often asked what the fruits of her works were. She would reply, the fruit of silence in prayer, the fruit of prayer in faith, the fruit of faith in love, the fruit of love in service, and the fruit of service in peace. Prayer, faith, love, service are all action steps to take in the process of a gratitude harvest. Being grateful opens us to more experiences in life. It creates within us a desire to share our own experiences and a greater love of the moment. Have you ever noticed how the more you are grateful for something, the more you attract it back into your life? Once I had a friend who felt she was getting too old to marry and had absolutely no suitors. And after working with a practitioner, it was suggested that she pray every day for the divine match. Then she was to express gratitude out loud 2 or 3 times a day for the divine right partner that had come into her life, even though he wasn't there yet. It wasn't too long that not one, not two, not but 3 men began to pursue her. Ultimately, she married one. I think it's safe to say that most of us here today are in our 40s or older. If you were anything like me in your younger years, we believed that we had to do everything ourselves to be successful. As we've gotten older, we've come to realize there is a power in the universe we can use, according to Ernest Holmes. And part of that power is to give thanks for everything in our life, even before we know how something is going to turn out. That expression of gratitude develops our trust for the divine. Deborah Taylor had been studying Buddhism in a monastery in Thailand. Now, lodging and meals were provided for over 250 of the individual students. One day, a Thai family showed up and provided the meal at their own expense and at their own labor for 250 students. It was their way of expressing gratitude for the teachings of Buddha. When Deborah returned home, she found herself on a planning committee for a retreat in Northern California. The committee was discussing providing lunch for the participants, but they were a little bit distraught because there wasn't enough money in the budget to provide lunch for everyone. Filled with a sense of gratitude for what she had experienced in Thailand, she openly volunteered to pay for all of the meals of the retreat participants. She noticed what joy it gave her. At the conclusion of the meeting, every committee member walked up and gave Deborah unsolicited money for the lunch fund. Her story shows how gratitude begats generosity, which in turn begats gratitude again and again and again. The more we feel gratitude, the greater the impulse is to give. So just what are some of the steps we can take to create a greater attitude of gratitude? Just like physical exercise keeps us young and vital, participating or practicing gratitude every day also helps to keep us young and vital and vibrant. Begin each and end each day by expressing what you're grateful for in your life. You can either write it down or just state it openly. Get in the habit of being grateful for what you see as you journey through your life each day. It doesn't have to be something that you pay for or anything really big. It can be the incredible full moon, a beautiful sunrise, or the laughter of a child and the beloved rain that we need. Focus on what you need, not on what you want. So often we think our life is a failure because we can't afford that trip to Cancun or Hawaii, or the new couch we want for the living room, or the tickets to the play in San Francisco. Those are wants, not needs. When we focus on what we want rather than our needs, gratitude tends to take a back seat. Figure out what you need to make you happy. When you truly stop and think about it, what we basically need is food, shelter, a sense of belonging with our friends and our family, and something meaningful to do in our life. Part of our daily work is to include gratitude that we're able to fulfill our daily needs. Take some time to do personal forgiveness work. Absolutely nothing stops feelings of gratitude more than resentment, anger, and hate. When we try to force ourselves into feeling gratitude when we have negative emotions in existence, only compounds the past injuries we're still carrying around in the garbage bag on our back. If you still carry resentment for an experience with your parents, an ex-spouse, maybe your current boss, to name a few, it's time to heal those wounds so gratitude can come back in. Allowing those wounds to continue unresolved stands in the way of expressing our thankfulness. During our own healing and forgiveness work will also lead to an appreciation for the things that caused you pain in the first place. As author Ryan puts it, forgiveness and gratitude are our suffering and challenges redeemed. Focus on what's right with your life, not what's wrong. Ever since we were children, we were trained to see what was wrong. Maybe it was your elbows on the table, or your table manners, or how about a low grade on a paper that you wrote. Then as adults, we fell into the same pattern at work. How could we do something better? Or what was wrong with a given project? And then, of course, we did the same thing in our relationships. We were always looking at what our spouse did wrong rather than what they did right to grow love within the relationship. Isn't it time to be grateful for what is working in our world? Making a simple shift in how we view and experience someone or something, and then expressing gratitude, can have a profound effect on not only ourselves, but everyone we come in contact with. My guess is that most of you at some time in your life have seen the play Our Town. It is a 3-act play written by Thornton Wilder in 1938, which he received the Pulitzer Prize for. For those of you who have never seen it or heard about it, it's a play that takes place in Grover's Corner, New Hampshire, over a 12-year period from 1901 to 1913. The first act is basically introducing us to the Webb and Gibbs families and their children, Emily and George. The second act introduces young love and ultimately the marriage between Emily and George. Act 3 tells us about death. Members of both families have died at this point, but most recently Emily died in childbirth. Emily convinces the stage manager to let her go back on her 12th birthday to experience her family just one more time. And while Emily can see her family, they cannot see her. And Emily states the following soliloquy: "I can't bear it. They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I'm grown up. I love you all. Everything. Oh, Mama, just look at me for 1 minute as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by and I'm dead. You're a grandmother. I married George Gibbs, Grandma, or Mama. Wally died too, Mama. His appendix burst on the camping trip to North Conway. We felt just terrible about it. Don't you remember? But just for a moment now, we're all together. Mama, for a moment, we're happy. Let's look at one another. I can't go on. It goes too fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I didn't realize all that was going on in life, and we never noticed. Take me back. Take me back up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corner. Mama and Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking and Mama's sunflowers and the food and coffee, new iron dresses and hot baths, and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it every minute? And the stage manager replied, no. The saints and poets, maybe they do. Emily, I'm ready to go back. I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are, just blind people. Let us not be like the blind people of Grover's Corner. Let each of us experience great joy and gratitude in the sunflowers, in the food we eat, in the hot cup of coffee we sip, and in the people in our lives. Let each of us express gratitude and expressions of our loving hearts for all that we have and all that we see, all that we experience, and all that we share. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours, and so it is. Amen.